the Democratic nomination for president. She also has strong words for both Donald Trump and fellow presidential hopeful Michael Bloomberg. Here to tell us why she's the one to bet on is herself, Senator Amy Klobuchar. Welcome.
Great group. Thank you.
Yes, it's lovely to have you back here again.
Thank you.
So Trump and his lawyers have decided not to participate in the impeachment hearings this week. And his lawyers are not going. No one's going to go. If he were innocent, wouldn't he want them to go?
You would think so.
Yeah.
You would think he'd want to make his case.
Yeah.
And he can make his own decision under the law, whatever he wants to do. But I think the most important thing here is that what this is about. You go way back to the founding of this country, and you go back to what James Madison, who I love because he was 5'4", which is my height, and he was a president.
Was it really?
Yeah.
But in today's height, that would be 5'6".
I know, but he was 5'4". Anyway, when he said this, he said that we needed those articles of impeachment. We need those provisions in the Constitution because he feared that a president would betray the trust of the American people to a foreign power.
A foreign power is
And that
key.
is exactly what's going on here. And I said the other day, it's like a global Watergate, really. Back then, for your viewers that are younger, we had a president, Richard Nixon, who wanted to get dirt on a political opponent. He was paranoid, the election was coming up, and so he got people to break into a headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, break into a file cabinet, they used to have those back then, and steal stuff. And that was illegal, and then he eventually, through impeachment, had to step down. But that's what this is
on a global basis. Do you call that abuse of power, or do you call it obstruction of justice? What do you call that?
You can call it whatever you want, but what it was, because Nixon ended up stepping down before there was a trial. But what this was trying to get dirt on a political opponent. That is exactly what Donald Trump did when he called the leader of a foreign power, and in some ways it's even worse because he's involving our national security.
Exactly.
Well, you know, the impeachment hearings, as Joy mentioned, they're entering a new phase this week in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. You're a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and polls show that 50% of Americans still support not only impeaching Trump, but also removing him from office. Given everything that we've heard, are you surprised that that number isn't higher?
I think people are just digesting all of this. It's complicated, and they just had the original witnesses this last week, and this is going to go on for a while. I don't really look at the polls. I figure it's our constitutional duty. I mean, we don't really have a choice here when you look at what this conduct was. And the people in the House, and now later the people in the Senate, are going to have to make a decision. If they put their country first, or do they put their political interests in their party
But they've already said they're not going to indict. They already said it. Mitch McConnell has no intention of removing this president, no matter what he does or did.
Well, maybe what Mitch McConnell should be doing right now, because the impeachment is even over in the Senate, is his job. Maybe we should be having votes on the gun safety legislation that the House passed over, or the climate change, or doing something on the pharmaceutical prices, and he's not. And that's what's happening right now. And I think that one of the things about this election, Joy, why I want to be this candidate to lead the ticket, is that I can win in those suburban areas, in rural areas. I've done it time and time again, as well as our fired up Democratic base. I can do that. And when you have someone that doesn't just win, but win big, then we change the country. We have a consensus coming in so we can get these things done.
Well, Senator, as you said earlier, you call this the global Watergate. You're a former prosecutor. Based on what you know from the House hearings, do you think that Trump committed a crime?
Again, I want to look at all the evidence. I am the one that has said that this is impeachable conduct, and that I'm a former prosecutor, as you note, and you got to look at each count. But I think this is very serious, what happened here, and it will come over to the Senate. And remember, this isn't a criminal proceeding. It is actually a decision under the Constitution about whether or not he should be removed from office.
But the Constitution enumerates certain crimes. You don't see...
Well, they do, except when you look at the definition of those crimes back when the Constitution was drafted, they looked at it differently. I mean, bribery to them was something else. That was about a political case.
Right.
And so I think that's what we're going to be debating in the Senate as it comes forward.
It's not
I think part of the problem, though, is that I think there was a idea that Democrats have gotten out over their skis with Mueller, and that the American public, and you know, because you live in the real world and you represent, you know, Midwestern states, that people are so inundated with so much information that they just think it's a witch hunt, and that's why Nancy Pelosi was so reticent, to go through with it. So, do you worry about Democrats getting out over their skis with it?
No, because I've seen what just happened in Kentucky, and what just happened in Virginia, and what just happened in Louisiana, where we had Democratic candidates win. In fact, in 2 of the states, Kentucky and Louisiana, Donald Trump had been there the night before. So I guess what I want to know is where can we send him next? Because in this case, the Democrats and that was while impeachment was going. So I just see
you should keep
the
using
people
that.
of this country.
That's a good line.
What the people of this country want, they want an economic check, yes. They want to do something about pharmaceutical prices, college affordability, and I have big ideas for that. But they also are voting for a values check, for a patriotism check, for a decency check. And we better not forget that, our party, when we decide who heads up our ticket, because we can't afford to screw this up.
Here's my issue. Because you constantly talk about bringing this country together. You say, I'm the candidate that even Republicans can like, people that voted for Trump. And you look at impeachment, it's not at all bipartisan. Not even one single Republican has voted for this. Not even one. And you compare that to when Clinton was faced with impeachment. 31 Democrats voted to open the inquiry. So if you're for bringing this country together, I feel like this impeachment is only causing us to be, as you said, 50-50. It's as far apart as you can get.
A lot. Yeah. To me, 50% is a lot.
But where's the other? Where's the other half of the?
Well, again, I don't
but
look
not
at the
one
polls.
Republican, not one. That's not a poll, though. That's actual vote in the.
Okay, but I look at it. Good point. I look at it as our constitutional duty. The chips will fall where they may. They're going to have to make their own individual decisions. But at some point, we have to realize they don't represent where the American people are on so many things. And their party needs to change. They have blocked gun safety when the majority of Trump voters want universal background checks. The majority of hunters want universal background checks for guns, and yet they keep blocking it. So my point is, this is catching up on them because they are so far afield from where the American people are.
Okay, here's something that's going to hurt you. Mitch McConnell.
Okay, good. This sounds great.
Yes, I want you to speak to this. Mitch McConnell is threatening to drag out the Senate hearings for weeks. Now, that will leave you and much of the 2020 field, like Warren, Booker, and Harris, tied up in Washington, whereas Joe Biden and Mayor Pete are free to go out there and campaign. So, you know, and I also would like to add that you are one of those people in the middle that everybody wants, it seems. But I think if you were a man, you'd be further ahead. I'm just saying that. Because I think that...
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about how you're going to compete with this.
I have the most endorsements of electeds and former electeds of any candidate, any of them. In Iowa. And that includes a number of people, including a former Republican legislator who changed parties last spring because he said he could not stomach it anymore. And so those people are going to be my surrogates. My husband loves to campaign. My daughter loves to campaign. She's pretty good at it.
I think that's all going to work if you're not there with your family.
What else am I going to do? I have a constitutional duty, and I have to fulfill that duty. But I believe those people will be out there for me big time. Ruth Ann Gaines, who's the first African-American legislator in Iowa to endorse me. And those are my surrogates out there. They're going to be out there for me.
All right, you're not going anywhere yet. We have more with Senator Amy Klobuchar when we come back.
Okay.
With Senator Amy Klobuchar, we've got to talk to you about Mayor Bloomberg, who's been in the race, less than a week now, throwing a ton of money in the race, and now currently polling neck and neck with you nationally, I believe, in some polls. You said you don't buy the argument that he's throwing his hat in because, quote, everyone else sucks. So
that's what he said. I mean, he didn't say suck, but he said that it was necessary he come into the race. And so here's how I look at it.
So why do you think he's running then? If it's not because everyone he thinks couldn't beat Trump, then why would he be running?
Because he can. And I have a lot of admiration for him and his work. So let me start with that. But when I watched TV last night, all I saw were 2 billionaires ads. And for a lot of the people that aren't in the early states, they must think only 2 people are running. Well, that's because the rest of us can't afford to run ads like that. So my whole issue is you just can't simply allow wealthy people to come in and buy elections. That is not what this country is about. And I don't think America looks at the guy in the White House and says, let's find someone richer. Because that is literally what's going on right now. And so my hope is that the people will look at the candidates and they'll make a decision based on who is best to govern and who is actually best to lead the ticket. I am one of only 2 candidates from the middle of the country, the heartland. That is exactly where we lost last time, and I'm someone that can bring those votes.
Steyer's not doing well, even with all the money and everything he's throwing out there, so it doesn't really work, so don't worry about it.
And money's been part of politics for such a long time, I think.
Well, and I also, I mean, after the last few debates, in 6 days, we raised $2.1 million from regular people at AmyKlobuchar.com.
Good for you.
And that's how we did it, so it makes a difference.
Well, at the last debate, you reiterated your belief that Mayor Pete benefits from a sort of gender bias, and that a woman in his position wouldn't even make the debate stage. And I think we have a little bit more of what you said.
What I said was true. Women are held to a higher standard. Otherwise, we could play a game called Name Your Favorite Woman President, which we can't do because it has all been men. And if you think a woman can't beat Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi does it every single day.
That I love. Because it's very true. And that answer actually got a lot of praise. But last week on our show, we talked about a study that says almost half of this country, half of the men in this country are uncomfortable with female political leaders. So how do you grapple with bringing up this gender bias and not necessarily harping on it? Because a lot of people thought that that is what hurt Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. So it's interesting that I would bring it up because I'm someone that's always run on my merits. And I won in northern Minnesota with those steelworkers up there by simply saying, I'm proud to be a woman candidate, but I'm not running to be the first woman. I'm actually running to have your backs and to get things done. But the reason I brought it up is because I just think it's been such a cloud over women running for executive positions or running for governor or other jobs. And more women are getting those jobs and doing well. So my point is, yeah, it's a higher standard, but give me that standard like so many women out there working today, and I will meet it.
Right.
And I've done that by passing over 100 bills in that gridlock of Washington, D.C., where I am the lead Democrat, more than anyone else in Congress that's on that stage. I've done it by winning big in suburban and rural and urban districts time and time again, and that's the case that I can make. I do my work with my head, yes, but also with my heart. And I think that's what people want in a president right now.
Yeah.
Look, you're a moderate candidate from the middle of the country. I've always said that's the way to win over. I think people seem to be catching on a little bit that you can't go so far left. It's the reason why Elizabeth Warren lost half of her supporters in the last poll. What are you going to do to continue winning people over?
You got 30 seconds.
I'm making my case. I don't think there's a monopoly on good ideas. I'm going to bring those healthcare premiums down and do something about pharmaceutical prices. But no, I'm not going to kick 149 million Americans off their current health insurance in 4 years. That is my problem with their proposals, and I've said it from the beginning, and I've set a clear path, and that's how I'm going to win.
And keep that sense of humor going. Our thanks to Senator Amy Klobuchar. We'll be right back.